This is Europe's game-changing new high-speed train connection. Linking Brussels and Amsterdam in just over 2 hours, it finally breaks the long-standing monopoly of the expensive, inconvenient and unfriendly Eurostar service. The new service uses the Dutch Railway's recently introduced ICNG trains. So join me for a ride on board as we explore the unique seating layout, dive into the troubled history behind this train service, and of course, talk about why this new service has been so desperately needed for so long. Our journey begins at Brussels South Station, the Belgian capital's main hub for long distance and international traffic, which first opened in 1869. Heading inside the building, we are immediately greeted by something quintessentially Belgian, the Tintin cartoons. This particular piece is from Tintin's Adventures in America, published in 1932. But unfortunately, these two art pieces are about the nicest things in the station. The rest of the station is very crowded, poorly lit and got very low ceilings. Not great. Seating options are also very limited, but there is a decent selection of retail outlets. And the free water fountain is a great addition. I also really love the old school electronic departure boards that are still common in Belgium. But they are hardly great at conveying information as clearly as the modern displays we have today. As our train is not due to depart for another 50 minutes or so, we have some time to check out the other train traffic at the station. Brussels is one of Europe's most important hubs for international train connections, with the operator Eurostar providing many direct connections to places like Paris, Amsterdam and the Ruhr area in Germany. Not to forget their high-speed services to London over in the United Kingdom. Deutsche Bahn also operate their brand new ICE3 Neo high-speed trains to and from Germany, and French SNCF run a few services each day to destinations beyond Paris. And of course you got many local and intercity services to all over the country operated by Belgium's national railway company. But we are of course mostly interested in this, the brand new NS EuroCity Direct service, seen here arriving from the sidings just south of the station. These striking new trains features NS's updated yellow and blue livery, which is definitely eye-catching. This is the Intercity New Generation, built by Alstom and entered service in 2023. While they are only capable of 200 km an hour, which is definitely on the lower end for a purpose-built high-speed railway line, I'll explain more later in the video as to why that's actually not a drawback in this case. But as our train is about to depart, we'll have to head on board. I'll be traveling in first class today, which is found towards the middle of the train and indicated by these red seats in a 2+1 layout. Seat reservations are not available on the EuroCity Direct service, so I just decided to pick this solo window seat. Because the Eurostar service to Amsterdam, scheduled to depart just a couple minutes ahead of us, was running late today, we unfortunately ended up also departing late, as that train had to go in front of us. As we leave the station behind and head through the heart of Brussels to join the line north towards Antwerp, let's have a look at the route map for today's journey. We are on board EuroCity Direct service 9543. Our train leaves from Brussels South, only making 3 intermediate stops on the 210 km long route, terminating at Rotterdam Centraal after a journey time of 2 hours and 12 minutes. My train was actually diverted because of engineering works, as EuroCity Direct trains normally call at Amsterdam South instead of Centraal and then continue onwards to Lelystad, but that will become important later in the video. Between Brussels and Antwerp we still have to use the classic railway line that allows for speeds of up to 160 km an hour. running next to regular Belgian domestic trains as well as passing through the heart of many cities, such as here in Mechelen, where the main station is currently under heavy reconstruction. We'll soon be stopping at the beautiful Antwerp Central station, but before we get there, let's have a look at the train's interior. First of all, I just really love the mood lighting installed throughout the train. It's meant to indicate zones on the train like the quiet area, but I just think it looks cool regardless. While in first class you get a pretty standard and spacious 2+1 layout, second class is a bit more funky with these couch-like seats featured in various areas. Apart from that, second class is a very standard affair with 2+2 seating in a mix of airline style seating and around a table. Throughout the train there's also luggage racks, as well as dedicated space for bikes, accessible seating next to the accessible toilet, and modern route and information displays throughout the train. For this 2-hour journey, the second class seats are more than fine. They feature power outlets, and the seat itself has a slightly winged headrest, coupled with the good balance between the ergonomic design and padding in the seat makes it rather comfortable. And before we arrive in Antwerp, let's have a quick look at the toilets. These are decorated with pictures from the Dutch countryside throughout, and on my train it was both very clean and fully functional. So I can just give it a thumbs up. I'll show you the first class seats in greater detail later in the video, but we are now diving into Antwerpen Centraal. While the station doesn't look very impressive from the underground platforms, this is actually one of Europe's most magnificent train stations, and it's highly worth a visit on its own to see its architectural beauty. So it's basically the polar opposite of Brussels South Station. We continue our journey a couple minutes behind schedule, behind the even more delayed Eurostar service. We are now heading for Belgium's high-speed line 4, north towards the Dutch border. This high-speed line does allow the Eurostar trains to reach 300 km per hour, and in theory our train to reach its maximum speed of 200 km per hour. But for some reason there seemed to be something restricting the train to 160, at least on this occasion when I took it. You might think that because the ICNG can only reach 200 km per hour, it has to be much slower than Eurostar trains. But that's actually not really true. If you compare the journey times between Brussels and Amsterdam Schiphol Airport on trains that make the same stops, the difference is only about 20 minutes. That's because Eurostar uses a full-on high-speed train model, and to pack in all the equipment that's needed to reach 300 km per hour, there are some trade-offs. Those high-speed trains accelerate much more slowly, have smaller but more pressure-tight doors, and often steps into the carriage, which makes dwell times much longer. The ICNG, on the other hand, is more like an upgraded commuter train. It accelerates quickly, has big, wide doors, and a mostly low-floor layout that makes boarding a lot faster and easier. Not to mention that 200 km per hour trains are a lot simpler and cheaper to build. Simply put, on a corridor like Brussels to Amsterdam, where the distance between stations is relatively small, the acceleration and dwell times matters a lot more for the overall journey time than being able to reach 300 km per hour for a couple of minutes between every station. And for NS it's great too, because instead of needing a small expensive fleet of dedicated high-speed trains for this route specifically, now they have a model of train that makes sense to operate on many intercity routes all over the Netherlands. Speaking of the Netherlands, we just crossed the border here in this business park completely uneventfully. And before we reach Rotterdam, let's take a closer look at the first class seats. And the first thing I discovered was that the seat I randomly decided to pick in Brussels was actually broken, or extra comfy, because whatever mechanism that was meant to limit the recline didn't work at all. The window seat here shows the normal extent of the recline. And now for the serious seat tour of an unbroken seat. First you'll find a very sturdy and nice table, and as you'd expect, there's both USB and a regular power outlet. The seat is very well padded, including the entire armrest. Combine this with the nice headrest and a good ergonomic design, I think they are quite nice. More than good enough for these 2 to 3 hour trips in and around the Netherlands. And as we begin the approach to Rotterdam, things got a little weird, as the train randomly started beeping. Another thing I found a bit weird was the sounds the train makes at certain speeds when accelerating or deaccelerating. It's very distinctive and can be perceived a bit loud. Just take a listen here as we approach Rotterdam Centraal. Nothing really wrong with it, just found it a bit strange to be honest. We are now arriving at Rotterdam Centraal, the main station serving the Netherlands' second largest city, known for its modern architecture, and a bit further from the city centre, the large shipping port. We make a brief stop here before accelerating out of the station again and making a sharp right-hand turn to join the HSL South high-speed line that would take us from here up to Schiphol Airport, where we finally get a chance to reach the train's maximum speed of 200 km per hour. However, our stay at this speed is very short, as the high-speed line to Amsterdam, opening in 2009, has unfortunately shown to be constructed quite poorly, resulting in the line currently having loads of temporary speed restrictions. Another slow thing about this train was the onboard Wi-Fi, where you might just be lucky enough to be able to send a WhatsApp message. Another terrible thing about this train service is that it was actually meant to start 15 years ago, using the now infamous Ansaldo Breda V250 trains. The V250 trains had so many issues that they only ran this route for 39 days before being pulled off and sent back to the manufacturer. They never returned to this line, and instead a temporary solution using older and even slower rolling stock has been running since 2009, while the Netherlands figured out what to do instead. And now, just about 15 years later, we finally have the EuroCity Direct service we are currently travelling on, filling the gap the original V250 trains were meant to close. We are now calling at Amsterdam Schiphol Airport. Not only is it a major European aviation hub, it's also quite an important interchange for the Dutch railways. It's also shortly afterwards we deviate from the route to Amsterdam South, instead taking the route into Amsterdam Centraal. So I guess it's about time to explain why this service is such a game changer. And it's very simple. Eurostar's operating practices simply suck. They use an aggressive revenue management system, which means tickets can get ridiculously expensive, especially last minute and on peak travel days. Just looking 2 days ahead, if you want to travel with Eurostar, not only will you have to pay almost double compared to NS, but you also can't travel between 10 AM and 4 PM because those trains are simply already sold out. So, if you wanted to travel before the EuroCity Direct service launched and Eurostar was sold out, your only options were head over to Flixbus or take a ridiculously slow and old EuroCity service. So yeah, I'm very happy to finally see an alternative to Eurostar's monopoly and their silly practices of bringing the worst aspects of air travel into train travel. Not only are the NS trains pretty much always significantly cheaper, they also don't pretend to be an airplane and let you stand on their trains, handy on days where the trains are disrupted and when you didn't know you'd be traveling weeks in advance. Fares on the EuroCity Direct between Brussels and Amsterdam start from as little as €20 if booked in advance, rising to a maximum of €65 for a fully flexible ticket valid on any train on the day in second class. First class is around 30% more expensive, which I don't think I'd personally be willing to pay, but as I was travelling on a first class Interrail, I could sit here at no additional charge. While Eurostar hits Interrail travellers with a minimum fee of €35 for the privilege of using their trains. So yeah, here as we arrive into Amsterdam Centraal bang on time, I will say I am very excited to finally see this new service operating. The ICNG trains themselves are comfortable and does the job of being a bit of a jack of all trades in the city train quite well. The only reason I can think to take Eurostar on this route now would be if 20 minutes of your life really matters to you, your final destination is within walking distance of Amsterdam Centraal, or you really want to purchase overpriced snacks from the Eurostar vending machine. And that's it for this video. Thank you so much for watching. If you like this video, make sure you subscribe to the channel as I try to post a new one every Sunday. You can also follow me over on Blue Sky at intercitysimon.com. I usually post live from my travels over there, so it's a great place to get a sneak peek at what videos might be coming on the channel in the future. Thanks for watching.